A secret society fears you. Sit with that for a second. Because it's not a figure of speech. It's not me being dramatic. There is an actual organized group of people somewhere right now who got together and in a room and made a decision about you. And that decision did not go the way they planned. They thought they understood exactly what you were. They thought they had your number. They were wrong by about 200%. And the gap between what they expected and what actually happened is the reason they cannot sleep tonight. You shocked them, not annoyed them, not slowed them down, shocked them. The kind of shock that rearranges what a person believes is possible. And now, instead of standing over you the way, they assumed they would. They are standing back from you, watching from a distance, terrified of what you actually are, underneath the version of you they thought they were dealing with. I need you to really feel that for a second, because I keep going before I keep going, because most people watching this are going to recognize themselves in what I'm about to say. Even if they have never had a single cautious thought about secret societies or hidden groups or any of that. You don't have to believe in any of it on the surface. You just have to notice the feeling in your body when I say someone underestimated you and it backfired on them in a way they never recovered from. Because somewhere in you, that feeling is already familiar. You already know what it's like to be quietly written off by people who had no idea who they were dealing with. So let me walk you through what I'm picking up, and I want you to just let it land instead of trying to figure out if it's real in the literal sense. Because the feeling underneath it is the part that matters. There is a group. I keep getting the sense of a closed circle, people who operate behind locked doors, somewhere private, somewhere most people never get invited into. Not in a big public thing. Small, tight, old. The kind of group that's been doing whatever it does for a long time, long enough that they have gotten comfortable, long enough that they stopped expecting to be surprised by anyone. And at some point, you came across their radar. Maybe you didn't even know it. Maybe you just kept living your life, kept healing, kept growing, kept getting a little more solid in who you are every single day. And somewhere along the way, that quiet growth made you visible to people who specialize in watching for exactly what that kind of energy. And here's the thing about groups like this. They do not like being surprised. Their whole structure depends on control, on knowing the outcome before it happens, on being the ones who decide who rises and who gets kept small. So when they noticed you, I don't think their first move was hostile. I think it was curious, almost amused, like, who does this person think they are? There is an arrogance backed baked into groups like this. A kind of inherited confidence that says nobody outside their circle could possibly be a real threat to their control. So they decided to test you, to see what you were made of. And what they did from what I'm sensing, was call something up. Not metaphorically. They pulled on something old, something powerful, something they'd used before to put people back in their place. An old, heavy kind of pressure. The kind of force that's supposed to make a person shrink, get confused, lose their footing, doubt themselves into silence. They were completely confident it would work on you the way it had worked on everyone before you. And it didn't. It didn't. You want to know why? You want to know the part that actually unsettles me. Sitting here, looking at this. It's not that you survived it. People survive things all the time, and that's expected, that's normal, that's the baseline. What unsettles me is that you didn't just survive what they sent at you. You absorbed it. You took something that was built to break a person, and you turned it into fuel. Whatever weight they put on you, it didn't crush you. It pressed you into something denser, something harder to move. And they watched that happen in real time. They watched the exact thing they were so sure would shut you down, instead make you sharper, calmer, more sure of yourself than you were before they ever started. That's the moment everything changed for them. That's the moment the room got quiet. Because now they don't know what you are. That is the real headline here, underneath all of it. It's not a group tried something and failed. It's a group tried something, failed, and has no working theory for why. They generally do not have language for you anymore. The categories they normally use to size people up. Easy target, threat, nobody. None of those boxes fit. You broke the measuring system. And when people who are used to having power lose their ability to measure something, the fear is a very, very specific, very deep kind of fear. It's not this person might hurt us. It's we do not understand what we are dealing with, and not understanding is the most dangerous position we've ever been in. I keep getting pulled towards something about your background, your lineage, the people who came before you. And I don't mean that in some vague, generic way. I mean there is something specific here. It's like whatever they called up to test you accidentally woke something else up too. Like the pressure they put on you reached past you and touched something older than was sitting quiet underneath your whole life, waiting. Ancestors. People connected to you by blood or by something deeper than blood. People who lived through their own versions of being underestimated, being tested, being pushed to the edge by forces bigger than them. And instead of staying buried in the past, that history woke up the second you needed it. That's part of why why what they sent at you didn't land in the way it was supposed to. You were not standing there alone. You just did not know yet how much was standing behind you. And I want to be honest with you about something else I'm picking up, because it's heavier, and I think you need to hear it instead of me showing up something else, softening it. There is a version of this where at some point before all of this, you were close to real danger, not symbolic danger, something closer to the bone. Like at some point you were near people or near a situation that wanted to use you, wanted to take something from you. Your energy, precious energy, your attention, your trust, maybe even more than that. And you got out. You got away from it. Maybe you don't even fully remember how close it was. Maybe it shows up now as an unexplained awareness around certain people, certain rooms, certain kinds of charm that feels like simply off to you, even when you cannot say why. That instinct is not random. That instinct is a scar that's doing its job. You were supposed to be used by something, and instead you walked out, and that escape is one of the reasons this group has been circling back around you ever since. People who specialize in taking, don't forget the one who got away. They keep an eye on it. They keep waiting for a second opportunity. And every single time they've tried, it has not gone how they wanted. Here's where it gets strange. So, because this part actually matters more than the conflict itself. The reason they kept failing isn't because you are fighting harder than they expected. It's because you stopped fighting the way they expected you to fight. At some point, and you probably know exactly which season of your life this was, you went through something that should have broken you, should have made you bitter, should have made you closed off and defensive and small. And instead, you did the thing almost nobody does. You let it actually change you instead of just hardening you. You grieved. You felt the loss all the way through instead of stuffing it down. You sat with that, with the parts of yourself you didn't like, instead of running from them. You forgave people who didn't deserve it. Not for them, but because carrying their resentment was costing you more than it was costing anyone else. That kind of healing is rare. It's so rare that people who deal in control and manipulation literally do not have a strategy for it, because their whole playbook depends on people staying reactive, staying wounded, staying easy to predict. And a healed person, is the one variable their system was never built to handle. So, picture them now. Picture the room. A handful of people who are used to being the most powerful presence wherever they go, sitting there going through everything they know, every trick, every old method that's worked on 100 times before, and watching it all just slide off you. I keep seeing this image of people frantically flipping through old books and old notes, trying to find the one thing they have not tried yet, getting more and more desperate with every page, because the one explanation they refuse to consider is the actual truth, that you are simply operating on a level their tools were never designed to reach. They built an entire system to manage people who are afraid. You stopped being afraid somewhere along the way, and the second that happened, you became unreachable to everything they know how to do. And listen, I do not think they hate you. That's the part that might be hardest to hear. I think somewhere underneath all of the fear and the scrambling, there is something closer to fascination, almost a kind of longing, because what you carry, that calm, that clarity, that thing in you that doesn't break under pressure anymore, that's exactly what people who chase power are actually starving for and never seem to find, no matter how much control they accumulate. You have the thing money and status and secrecy cannot buy. So part of what's happening right now is jealousy wearing the mask of a threat. They keep sensing pressure at you because some part of them is hoping that if they push hard enough, you will finally show them how you do it, how you stay this steady, how nothing they throw seems to stick. There is something else I keep picking up, and it's about timing, about a sense of urgency on their end that wasn't there before. It's like they have started to feel like their window is closing, like whatever protected them for years, secrecy, control, the assumption that nobody outside their circle could ever expose or outmatch them, that protection is thinning out. People in that position start to feel mortality differently. Not just physical mortality, but the mortality of their whole structure, their whole identity. When the thing you've built, your entire sense of power around starts cracking, it feels like dying, even if nothing physical is actually at stake. That's the energy I'm getting from them right now. Not confidence, not control, something closer to dread. The kind that shows up at 3 in the morning when you cannot explain to anyone why you are suddenly so unsettled. Meanwhile, you are over here becoming more of yourself every single day, almost without trying. That's the part I really want you to take in. You didn't have to become aggressive to survive this. You didn't have to copy their tactics or play their game on their terms. You just kept healing. You kept setting boundaries that used to feel impossible. You kept choosing rest over revenge, clarity over chaos, your own peace over the satisfaction of proving a point. And it turns out that was the most powerful move available to the entire time. Boundaries became your armor. Calm became your weapon. Your refusal to be provoked became the one thing they could never plan around. Because every strategy they had assumed you'd react the way wounded people actually usually react. You didn't. You responded like someone who already knew their own worth. And that response is what's been quietly dismantling their whole operation from a distance without you even raising your voice. I also want to name something that might feel almost too tender to say out loud, but it keeps coming through clarity. Part of why this group has been so drawn to you in the first place is your innocence. Not naivety, not weakness, but a kind of purity that survived everything you've been through. A lot of people who go through hard things lose that. They get cynical, they get hard, they stop trusting good things on principle. You didn't lose it. You came out the other side of real pain, still capable of warmth, still capable of trust, still capable of seeing good in people even after some of them showed you exactly who they were. That combination, strength with softness still intact, is incredibly rare. And it's exactly the kind of energy certain people try to take from the others because they do not know how to generate it themselves. They wanted to study you. They wanted to figure out how you held onto something that gentle while staying that unbreakable. And the answer is simple enough that it would almost insult them to hear it. You didn't hold onto it by force. You held onto it by healing honestly, instead of performing strength while quietly falling apart underneath. So here is where the title of all of this finally comes full circle. Because everything I've said is really just one long answer to one question. Why does a secret society fear you? They fear you because you broke their model. You took every method they had for keeping people small, confused, and compliant, and you simply didn't respond the way the model predicted. You got tested by something old and heavy and supposedly unbearable, unbeatable. And instead of being erased by it, you metabolized it. You turned a setup designed to defeat you into proof of exactly how undefeatable you actually are. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's the direct result of every quiet, unglamorous choice you made to keep healing when it would have been so much easier to stay bitter, to keep growing when it would have been so much easier to stay small, to keep trusting yourself when an entire group of people was betting against you behind closed doors. They expected ordinary. They got something they are still struggling to find words for. They were off by 200%, and that margin of error is the reason their hands are shaking right now instead of yours. Now, here's what I want you to actually do with all of this, because none of it matters if it just stays in an interested story you watched for 10 minutes and then forgot. You don't need to go looking for proof of any secret group. You don't need to spiral into fear and suspicion about who is watching you or what's being done behind some locked door somewhere. That's not the assignment. The assignment is so much simpler than that and so much more powerful. Keep doing exactly what you are already been doing. Keep choosing the boundary, even when it's uncomfortable. Keep choosing the rest instead of the reaction. Keep letting yourself be soft in a world that keeps trying to convince you softness is weakness. Because your softness paired with your strength is the exact combination that no system built on fear knows how to neutralize. You are not who they thought you were. You are not who you used to think you were either. You are the version of yourself that got tested by something built, but by something built to take you down and walked away from it more solid, more clear, more impossible to shake than you have ever been in your entire life. They noticed, they are scared, and the only thing left for you to do now is keep becoming exactly who you already are. Because that, more than anything they could ever throw at you, is the one thing they were never prepared for.